incredible?
Yes.
Here, let's have a seat. They're all here to honor you and your incredible accomplishment 20 years ago. We have so much to cover today, and Antony, I'm going to start with you. Because this film brought you and George Lucas and the cast and crew back to Tunisia. Tell us about going back there.
Absolutely right. It had been how many years, I can't remember. But there suddenly we were on the homestead, the big planet that we first met Luke and the twin sons and all that kind of thing. And it was truly moving because the hole in the ground where Luke had stood and kind of called down to Aunt Peru and, you know, went on to have the blue milk and all that kind of thing, that was still there. So we were actually in the real location. And I tell you, my soul really did turn over a bit. Because George and I were the only people there, and we kind of looked at each other and went, interesting, you know. And we were both a little older than we have been originally.
Well, that's exciting. And for you, because of the difference in filming this movie, there was an evolution over the course of production of how C-3PO performed for the camera. So in addition to wearing the traditional suit, what other techniques were used or attempted?
Well, in episode 1, 3PO was a puppet, as you'll remember, made by Anaheim. And I didn't operate it. I just did the voice. So in episode 2, this one, I said I would like to try and be the puppet. And they gave me this whole rig, and if you come to my show at 5:30 tomorrow in the other theatre, you will hear all about it. Something like that. But there I was dressed up in this brilliant puppet, and we filmed everything. And then George kind of changed his mind, and we had to go back, and I did everything again in the brown puppet, which was the gold puppet painted brown. Stay with me, it's very complicated. But it's an easy fix in films, you just repaint something. But I was just glad 3PO was there. And an interesting thing, though not really very good, was that the hole in the ground underneath the dome, I couldn't stand up in there because it was full of water back in the original days, the water table. By episode 2, we had the whole crew down in there because the water table had dropped because too many tourists had come and stayed in hotels wanting to see the original location of Star Wars. It was a little moment of global warming, I'm afraid. But it was kind of great to be back, apart from the heat, obviously.
Okay, so we have to talk about your cameo in this film, because after 25 years, we had the opportunity to see you in the flesh.
I said to George, yeah, in a manner of speaking, I said to George, you know, it'd be great in all these movies, but could I show my face as a character, you know, in Euphoria? Sure. And so I went to wardrobe and they said, we don't have any costumes left, but look, here's this one. You could, it's a soldier, and they went to a lot of effort. It was a little tight around the neck. But I said to Ahmed Best, I'm going to be in this thing as well, you know, as my face. So he went and he got the last costume. The only thing was the sleeves on mine were kind of very short. And I think it was Matthew, the costume assistant, said, oh, that's no problem. And he added a lot of gold braid. So I started off as a regular soldier and ended up as an officer purely because of costume.
Well, I just geeked out when I saw your cameo, so it was very exciting to see you out of the suit. Now, Doug, you've spoken about when you first started on The Phantom Menace, and how George Lucas challenged you to think differently from the original trilogy. So about what new Star Wars designs could be. So how did the process of starting work on Attack of the Clones actually differ from The Phantom Menace?
No, thank you. It's wonderful to be here. And you know what, when we started working on the prequels, the designs and the direction actually took me for a complete loop because George wanted to try something new, basically establish the aesthetic guideline for the whole Star Wars universe. And by doing that, we went backwards in time, and, you know, to make it more elegant. And so the approach was really, the first year and a half was just pure design, pure world building. So we had designed a lot of episode 1, 2, and 3 at that time. This was prior to getting the script. So when episode 2 came around, we actually had a good foundation for what it was. And that's when George started to think about all of the actual environments. And that's where we start to fit in all the various aesthetics, all the spaceships, all the characters, all the worlds, and really start to fit it in. So if you look at the timeline, there is a logical through line aesthetically for all the films. And it was really terrific because I literally started designing episode 2 for all the scenes for his script a week after the premiere of episode 1.
Oh, wow. That is very cool. Now, when Lucasfilm made Attack of the Clones, Lucas was a passionate advocate for digital cinema, as we heard, and everything that came with it. But as a concept artist, you traditionally worked with paper and tangible materials. So tell us about that, because how much of a digital component came into your work?
Actually, there was quite a bit, but when I started working with George, I wanted to go old school. So I deliberately put all the digital tools aside. It was interesting because John Knows here, and along with his brother Thomas, they invented Photoshop. So we actually got the test of that early in the 1990s. And yes, and we were actually converting the art department to be going digital. When I signed on to design the prequel films in 1995, I deliberately put all those tools away because I wanted to get to the heart of what Ralph McQuarrie and Joe Johnston did. So, yeah, literally, I just went back to pencil and paper for the first year and a half. And then when we started doing episode 2, that's when we started to introduce more of the digital tools again.
Well, we have to talk about the clone design, because Tamora Morrison and Daniel Logan are here with us. And what? Okay.
Like a bantha. You got to do it, Tim. Like a bantha. They want the dance. Yeah!
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, well, Tamora and Daniel have both had the chance to play Boba Fett now on screen. And yes, right? Very exciting. So the Clone Trooper was essentially a new design for Attack of the Clones. Can you explain how the appearance of Boba Fett's armor helped influence the clone's armor?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this was really the fun of working with George, is that he had pre-planned all this because he wanted to create the idea that Jango Fett, his armor, became sort of the evolution for the stormtroopers. And so I literally took Jango Fett and his armor and basically kept the original design that Joe Johnston and Ralph McQuarrie did. And then we started to blend it towards the classic Stormtrooper helmet that we saw in the original trilogy. And so if you look at the Phase 1 Trooper, you'll see that it has the T-visor shape, but then we start to introduce that downward mouth for the troopers. And that was deliberate to sort of plant the seed that the evolution of those troopers kind of grew into that. And then when you look at the Phase 2 Trooper, you can see more elements of the classic troopers coming into the helmet design.
That's awesome. And there are so many amazing clone troopers we've seen here this weekend. If you are dressed as a clone trooper, please stand up. We want to see your armor. Yeah, we got